That's a good question, though.
Anyone who is aspiring for CTO finds this as a very important.
Lots of opportunities coming up. I come from techie background,
It's always evolving, and now as an engineer, like how should I cultivate this kind of skill? What are my initial steps at least?
and we also become a bridge between the product management as well as our solutions team.
As a CTO, how would you approach this problem solving it in terms of architect, in terms of engineers, and key people would be to deliver this product. That's the whole idea. I want to get very specific.
User experience guy will come into picture, your product guy will come into picture, your engineering. So all of this are put together. The next third phase would be to understand business sense. This is very, very important.
Hi everyone. Today we have Prasanna joining us in on what is the role of CTO, and it's a very special episode for me because what is a CTO's role is a very important question to be asked. Obviously, we all know like he should be a techie, he should be geeky and stuff like that. But really, let's dig in and understand from Prasanna what is his current role as a CTO at Neo Stats.
Okay, firstly, thanks, Kamlesh, for inviting me to this particular podcast, and happy to see your knowledge and also to find out what you're bringing into the community. I will start with this notion, right? Uh, I always feel everyone is very unique, and every talent needs to be appreciated, and every knowledge to be a shareable one. And I always tell wherever I meet, be empathetic and trust yourself. So that is the success which you will fall into. With that, so I'm Prasanna, and I'm currently serving as CTO in Neo Stats. Right? What is Neo Stats? Neo Stats is a complete one-stop data and analytics strategy to execution firm. We ensure the customers all kinds of data related transformations to find out. We give them the right path for data driven knowledge for every organizations, and we offer our customers the end to end data to value experience, right? So in simple words, Neostats is a one stop data shop.
Nice.
And so this journey, it is I'm new as a CTO, but there are several other people also who are been in the industry for a while. But yeah, the journey is quite exhaustive, which I would say, and it has taken almost 2 decades. So that is quite a commendable time. But I've kept things on the toes. So I come from techie background, obviously. So in my early careers, I have done programming, then moved into product management, then managed engineering and R&D. Then I was trying to solve what can be done better, because now you have the knowledge of tech, right? So it is, you always think tech and try to deliver tech, but it becomes more uh, good that you need to understand what is something happening around you, beyond you. Then I was looking at problems of outside the world, because you can solve, you just need that business problems or which is unique in the outside of your world, leaving away your tech, right? And tech is, I always believe, 20 percentage, and problem solving is more like 80 percentage.
Okay.
So
That's nice. Like tech is only 20 percentage, and problem is the more bigger picture. But as an engineer, you are always concentrated, or at least the initial years, you always feel tech is a very important piece, which it is.
yes,
I believe which it is. But what is your thought on that?
I acknowledge what you said, number one. And number two is like, yes, initially it requires for you a solid foundation, right? You need to be very clear on where you wanted to be at your, I would say, the journey of 1 to 5 years of your early careers. Where you wanted to be, in the sense, what kind of a platform do you want to be? What technical problems are you trying to be? What industry you want to be? So these are some questions which you would need to ask for yourselves first, and probably if you know someone who's closer to you, they might tell you basis their experience, I learned this, but then The point is they are just a guidance. Don't go by the statement, right? This is what I learned, because many a times people, when they say okay, they go by their words, right? Because they know them, they have seen their success, but success is their own success. It doesn't mean that you will also pass through the same journey, but you will have to decide. So tech, in my view, you need to have a solid foundation, and I did had a solid foundation in my early career. So that is the, I would say, the cornerstone for me in terms of stepping up one step above one step by step. You go and just put your thinking around it for a long term vision.
Makes sense. So having a solid foundation in tech is really important as a CTO, which I really believe in. But the tech has been ever evolving. It's always evolving, and now it's much faster pace it's evolving at. So do you believe if my initial first 5 years of the career, if I had solid foundation, will it still be relevant 10 years down the line? How do you keep up with the evolution of tech which is happening and say that your foundations are still strong? Because foundation is one thing. So your foundation might be relevant at this time frame, but will it be still relevant after 5 years? Or how do you keep yourself updated?
Okay, so before I even answer that question, right, I will put a very real time example to it, right? This I have seen in my own life, right, where you buy a TV,
Yes.
right? Earlier, like say in early 90 or 2000s, there used to be something called a solider. It survived for almost 10 years, or I would say even 12 years. Then, when you compare those versus now, the basic discipline is still the same. Meaning the core is still the same. It's watching TV. But how it has evolved is like you had your LED, you have your LCD, and this is from the point of technology. But as a user, consumer, it has made you aware that when something new comes, now you're able to identify, maybe through any medium. Now you're able to identify what this technology, you're able to adapt to it, right? So the point which has to be taken out of this is that you build your basic guidelines, keep continuing with that basic guidelines, and ensure you keep evolving by reaching out to people, right? Reaching out to people, reading lots of books, keep your eyes and ears open by ways of maybe newsletters, maybe some local events, maybe some blogs. I would say, in my view, most importantly, it is networking. So all these years, whatever I have done my networking, that has led me keep my knowledge and keep my data to at least somewhere closer to what it is evolving. We cannot catch up with evolution today, because lots of things you just see today, tomorrow it is something else, right? So you cannot be at pace with it, but you will at least come closer to it. So the networking becomes a very solid foundation for this as well.
Yeah, makes sense. I really believe in this because I may not say I'm the best programmer. I don't believe that I'm best. I try to do.
Maybe I would say there is nobody called as best.
Yeah, exactly. and I will try to do whatever the requirement is there, and I'll try to deliver best result at least. So the real thing I have learned is the more I network, the more people I meet, more ideas I grasp from them. It gives me the curiosity to really go back home and learn through the concept and see if that matches with my guidelines, which you said, right? Guidelines, or maybe am I comfortable with that tech?
Right.
And it gives me my long-term vision. So I think that's a good analogy or a good base to set in to see how the tech is evolutionized and keep up with it. I think networking is the great, and I truly believe in it. And I have a problem here. The problem is, as a software engineer, you are always confined to your own system, because what happens is you always think, I don't have to talk with people. For me, in this computer, if I can deliver results, it's enough. Company should just believe in results, and I don't think I have to talk with people. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, I acknowledge what you said. If it were been 10 years before, because people tend to be more close loop, where you just come, You look at what is the problems today, list of problems by the day. You come in the morning, you pick up, like you open your Jira, you see list of tickets, bugs, all of this, right? And you go start coding in. But the time to think was very, very little, because you had something to solve for, which is given to you on a day-to-day basis, and you kept continuously moving on. Now it has rapidly evolved, because people today, they cannot only solve by just tech. As I said, you cannot just look at your problem and just write a code and fix it, right? You need to have business sense, right? For that business sense, you need to collaborate. Maybe the collaboration can come, you within your team, it obviously happens because you need to talk to them, but you need to have cross functional collaboration that will allow you to reach out to other departments and understand how are they understanding or utilizing this product what you are developing. At the end of the day, they are consumers, right? We also are consumers. But how it is being adopted, what problems are they really facing, is it something, are we doing good? That's the basic question. Am I solving something which is for good? If that questions, if they get a clear understanding, right, I believe this problem would be solved. And that is now is happening today. Nobody sits and you have your, after COVID, everything is revolutionized, remote, hybrid, all of this. But they have got lots of doors now. Lots of doors, when I mean is, you have information coming in from one side through, let's say, known contacts, one side coming through your mentors, other side coming through your family. Yeah, they are also giving input. So they say, hey, don't do this, I'm not able to. So you might find this at times when I start a quick, maybe I will say, early in the careers, when I used to start typing something, there is some disturbance comes. My daughter or someone who come and says, what are you doing? I'm saying, I'm a bit busy. What busy are you? Writing always something. I said, I'm not writing. Right? I'm coding something. What coding are you doing? So it gives us that, where your distraction is one thing, but you'll always be abstracted by your own work, but that gives you a pathway to be able to look at data information around you. Most people, they don't do. But today that is getting, I believe it is completely open. There is lots of opportunities for engineers. Only thing is, have business sense, right? That is what today every mentors, everybody is saying. Don't just think solving a problem. Understand what that problem is. Can it be a short-term fix, or can it be a long-term product? So
Yeah. So cultivating this business mindset of business insight is what you're proposing. And as an engineer, like how does it? How should I cultivate this kind of skill? What are my initial steps at least?
okay, to cultivate your skills, one is, first, you know already how to code, so you have learned so many different programs, maybe courses, or making visits to a center and then learning this. But start talking to people.
Okay.
So that is the first step, right? You should open up.
Open up.
So you should open up, start talking to people, understand. I'm not saying, when I say open up, within your company, right? So that's where it starts, right? You are doing something for your company, and if you don't open up and ask, you say, what do that guy feel? If I go and ask, does he feel that am I not aware? My manager will come and tell me, right? Don't think about it. It doesn't matter. Open up, go and check out what the others are doing and see how they are doing it. You will be able to get some knowledge, maybe not relevant to your programming, but that knowledge will help you apply this skills within your program. Maybe you would be able to solve something very quickly, right? So I have seen this, like sometimes you get stressed. I have seen most of the times where people get stressed in solving a problem. They don't know. I just tell them, just look at like this. Stare at a wall. I mean, this is happening even today. You just stare at a wall for 5 minutes. Let's refresh, go for a walk. This is usual practice, everybody says. But when you start opening up, you will feel that the problem is very simpler. That's why I said that 80% of the time is understanding and looking at how to solve. Your tech comes in to solve that the last 20%, because the tech is always in your hands. How to solve it becomes much easier.
Yeah, thank you so much. And like opening up is a very big challenge, and it has been a challenge for me. But I believe that now I'm much better. It's very important to open up, as I'm talking through my experience, because it has really helped me to see myself in a long term pathway as a software engineer. And once you ask true questions to yourself, and if you're bold enough to ask those true questions to surrounding people, it'll really motivate you to get forward in your path, and also you'll have some clarity.
Right.
At least that helped me to gain clarity for sure.
Yeah. So the clarity comes at a period of time, right? So that is also very important. People, they wanted today being that rapid pace, they wanted results immediately. That is also wrong, right? You cannot get that results. Meaning, if you were to lose your weight, it takes a bit of time, right? Same thing. If you have to do something, you have to patiently see what is happening, continuously do that task. So my earlier mentor used to say in my program, this dry. I asked him what is dry. He said, don't repeat yourself. I said, what do you mean by don't repeat it? You just check your codes, okay? And don't come to me like this, don't repeat yourself. He was telling me both ways. Codes as well as don't come to me. Right? So some principles, it has a value, but how you adopt, how you take that and digest, right? That makes you a much more scalable engineer, right? Why reason I scalable is today, many people, they don't think scalability also. And you have flexibility by working in different times, but if you were to scale, if a larger problem comes, how would you handle it? So that thinking is not that great. This is my personal view, but this is also changing in the current landscape because today there is lots of problem to solve. Lots of problems to solve, and how to solve is the question. I believe everybody has a chance now today. Earlier the chances were very, very little, that it was restricted to certain set of people. Like somebody does good or maybe a good job within your team, they say, okay, put that guy. Now each and everyone gets a chance. Make use of that chance to expose yourself what you are capable of.
Yeah, that makes sense. The more you expose yourself, the more opportunity you get to experiment and experience as well.
Right. I like this word, experiment and experience. Great.
Yeah, it just came out. So I think that's great. But as a 5-year-old engineer or 5 years experienced engineer, I have seen as a fresher, I have seen as a 1 or 2 years, experienced as a professionally. The next thing I want to see myself as long-term vision, and in terms of long-term. So as a fresher, and once I've done my, got into my work, I understood how the organization works. I understood how teams work and what kind of code I need to contribute and how I can make a positive contribution to the organization. Once I have understood that, and it's been like few years down the lane, what my next question is, I evolve myself into some managerial role, for example. My next question is, a company founder has its own vision, market has its own requirement, and as a product manager or as a manager, you know that you need to deliver certain values, and you're constantly taking feedback from all these people. How should I consolidate all this information and give right prioritization tasks to my engineers? So that's the real question which I always.
Okay, yeah. So this has always been the real life, right? It's because we juggle up between, hey, we have a roadmap. In that roadmap, we have set 10 things. Suddenly, the market, maybe a regulatory needs has changed. Suddenly, the 11th, 12th thing comes up, because of which the roadmap gets extended by 15. Right now, as a engineering manager or as a product manager, my tasks are also my KPIs gets increased. So this is a real problem. But as we have gone through this, what in my view is that one is getting to know how you will be able to get all this data. Number one, meaning collect. It is very important that you need to get all this data from the markets. You are taskless, but maybe setting the communication and stakeholders expectation is very, very important. Number one. So number two is how would I prioritize this, right? Because one way the manager says, hey, I have my 10 things already and you're putting me another 11 things now, which one to prioritize? Your founders or your executive board has something to deliver and they say you are now adding up and do you cut the fees? If you cut the features, your revenue doesn't come. And as a one-sided or as looking at from the forefront, the prioritization is very, very important to ask some very tough questions. Right? Firstly, am I solving something for a customer? Does it really solve any biggest pain point? Right. That is the first thing which I will look at. If it solves the pain point, does this match relevant to my roadmap? Right. Because I have 10 things already. The 11th thing I'm going to bring, because of which my does it align with my business goals? Right. If it aligns, the next thing is to understand, can I be able to take up this within the time period and within my resources what I have? If those, then you set up your last stage by saying prioritization of telling them, okay, now all these are aligned and can I squeeze some time or maybe 1 or 2 days there is a delay, or can we do within that, or can you deprioritize some of them? That is how I look at prioritization or setting my expectations, right? Then I will start communicating. That's why I said initially setting expectations is very, very important. Now you have the prioritization. Now you know what is to be delivered. Now is it an important pain point? If yes, all of this, then you set your direction. And that gives also to the people clarity, right? It is more like giving clarity because you cannot keep on throwing stones at each of their heads, right? Otherwise, they will get every time I keep on just doing something, but I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So give them the clarity, set the expectations to the executive board or to the founders, what they are in terms of aligning with broader business goals. If all these come in line, I'm sure these problems are solvable. So this we have solved it already.
I think that's great. So there is so much buzz around fintech, and almost I feel like every engineer want to get part of a fintech company. So what is the buzz with joining to a fintech company?
Okay, firstly, the buzz is fintech and the financial related aspects. It's growing a lot because of the revolutionizing of this UPI and BNPL and e-commerce. So all of this is taking for because we are accelerating entire usage of payment ecosystem. Right today, if you look at, we have to go to let's say a bank or their branch, everything, and as an individual today, everything you can do it remotely, right? And it is more applicable now for the business as well because there are lots of startups which is coming up. For them, the lending and other things is also being done by many of the fintechs. But it, I would say, more why there is a lots of buzzes, it is creating an ecosystem to be able to more scalable, more efficient, and easily accessible to each one of us, right? So that's where I see a buzz. And as an engineer, right, so if you were to choose a fintech, I being in the fintech, so I see there is lots of opportunities coming up. But that said, how you would revolutionize it and how you think that that problem could be solved, that is the strategy which you have to think and then do. But there is a lots of opportunities which is coming around, lots of problems to solve around, and I really feel this is a good industry to focus on.
So if we just go by an example, suppose my question on my example is, if I want to build a fintech product where I lend money to a salaried employees, how would you go about and architect that particular product? As a CTO, how would you approach this problem, solving it in terms of architect, in terms of engineers, and bigger picture technically?
Okay, that's a good question though. So firstly, the problem statement you mentioned is about we are lending and
So we are lending to a salaried employees. How
okay.
should I approach this problem technically? And if we are doing through an app, what should be an architecture, and what are the things we should take care of it?
So technically, right? Firstly, the problem statement itself, it's like it's not. It looks like to be a too broader because a salaried person. It could also mean what kind of state they are in. So, for example, it could be your early in your careers, it could be your mid careers, it could be your later in the careers before 60s, right? So you need to identify to which segment you are actually targeting, right? And also which particular category, it's your premium category or it's your midlife or it's maybe early in the stages of people. So that way you will know whom are you trying to solve, right? So for example, if you take cred as an example, I'll give it, then I will go jump back. So they specifically solved a problem of where people have multiple credit cards. So you might also be used to it, right? So for me, it was very useful. Yeah. Though I very carefully utilize the credit cards, but it was very useful for me, right? And that's a premium category. So where they always think about if one person, he will always pay. But if there are multiple cards, he has to go through multiple pages and then do payments. So that's a great example. Now coming back to the problem, if I were to look at, as I said, I will look at the generations. Whom are we trying to solve this problem? What is the size of this problem? I mean, how much is the population which you are looking to adopt to this? And then identifying, are there really a needs, right? So obviously there is a need, because today everybody wanted to buy some cars and other things. So you just make use of their sense and understand how you want to lend it, right? From an architecture point of view, I would start by thinking about today how many of the users are we trying to solve the problems for. Maybe you have 10 problems to solve, for which what are all the population we have. Let's say 1 million is your population, and for which what kind of a stack, for example, do I need to implement, like cloud, and how fast I can go to the markets. Are we accessible to required technologies? When I say technologies, what softwares, codings, etc., what languages does it go? Then look at from an engineer point of view, how soon he will be able to solve this problem by coding, because today the chat gpt is also, I'm just adding context to it, so you can quickly grab those from chat gpt as well, but the context has still to be provided by the human. So now once you have this understanding of what you're trying to solve in a period of, let's say, 1 to 100 days, that is where I look at from the perspective investing my time, understanding how much of resources required, what platform do I need to look for. Then also have a long-term view, right? So meaning I won't look something for a 90 days or 100 days product, right? So I would look for something which is beyond. Then thinking about the roadmap of where this product can go beyond, have a statistical view, right? So everything has to be data driven. You cannot just assume and go. So with that data driven approach, I would think of, okay, in the next 1 year, if I were to scale 3x, what does the system which I would need? That is how my thought process will go around, basis which my engineering will also be taken up. Platform engineering, my SRE or site reliability, how much of efforts is required, whether do I need a complete automation of systems, because DevOps is growing today now. So and do I really need, right? So because many people, they go by the buzzwords, but actually does it really need? So you need to evolve, but it requires automation. If you need an automation, look for automation, but does it really need? So these are questions which I will think about and put the tech vision, right? So once the tech vision is there, then it is for your team to be able to put your what you say, the key objectives and responsibilities, and see how are we traveling through this journey.
And if you really want to be specific with the tech stack and cloud provider, what would it be?
Today, there are leading providers, if I would say, maybe I'm not pointing to anyone, but there are AWS, Microsoft Azure, Cloud. So all of them have their own unique
No, but I'm just
aspects.
saying that if you would want to like really be specific on solving this problem, what would your bet be? Obviously, I'm not saying that you have to pick now, but what I'm saying is, if given your comfort zone, what would those tech stack be, and what are the key people would be to deliver this product? That's the whole idea. I want to get very specific.
So the tech stack, I would obviously be choosing either of these three. Okay, it doesn't matter which one it is.
Either of the cloud, AWS, Azure, or
AWS,
GCP.
Azure, GCP, because they are very prominent today in the industry, and you get lots of tools within that within in itself, right? So you don't need to search for something outside. So since we have it now, as an engineering manager, what I look at is how can I architect. So in terms of how do my systems interact, or I would say integrate together, to understand what kind of an API mechanism I need to use, what kind of an access control do I have to put in place, what kind of authorization mechanisms does it have, what does a UI look like. So your user experience guy will come into picture, your product guy will come into picture, your engineering, so all of this are put together forms your complete tech stack.
Okay, cool. Uh, so, so product guy, engineering manager, architect, what else I could, and the cloud guy, the DevOps guy.
So the DevOps, the cloud architect to understand how would your infrastructure would look like, obviously. Then your engineering manager, then your QA, then your product managers, then your SREs, your reliability engineers to make sure that it goes to the field and they maintain the platform.
Yeah, cool. So thank you so much for this detailed explanation. It makes so much sense, so much sense that I understand these whole things in a deeper level. The next question I really want to ask, once you have developed this, a key factor for anybody to use it is customer experience. So how would you make sure that your customer experience is a key differentiator? And why I ask you this is because you have worked in customer experience space for a very long time. So I want you to give your thoughts on what is the key differentiator as a customer experience and how as a tech I can really bring value.
Okay, it's a good one. Yeah. So uh, from customer experience point of view, right? So from I wouldn't say from day one, but yeah, the moment, because earlier when we used to be tech, we used to think of only tech trying to solve a problem. We don't know the end users, how they feel or how they react to it, right? So that's where the complete shift has to be taken to see what does a customer experience mean. So I've been in the customer experience world because when I from the tech I moved on to the business side to bring solve some of these problems, right? It makes very very different. Simply if I just come and say, hey, how is things, and in olden days I'm saying if I solve a problem for you, that's a customer experience, but today it is not like that, right? So any product, if you were to look at it, is how it is going to be beneficial for the customer, because today you bring something, tomorrow there is another product which is in pipeline, so that they will just keep shifting. But as a business, customer experience is like a competitive advantage, right? So it is not only delivering value to them, but it is about how the customer understands your product and your area of learning, how it solves their pain points. So that is the important aspect. Majorly, what we look at is in terms of when we say a larger customer experience point of view, there are businesses looking not only this tech stack. Tech stack is one part of it, but there are larger pieces to it. How people interact, how do they? But end of the day, they use your product. So for me, if I were to look at from start of the product, I would put again data inside this to understand who clicked on what. Right. So for example, if somebody signs up, how many people have signed up, whether did I really made a business to it. So now that's where I ask the product manager, say, hey, you said this much amount of revenue, but then it is not happening, right? Now say, yeah, the customers are not signing. Why they are not signing up anymore? Are they finding any difficulty? So this is how each and every step has to be thought from the customer perspective. You should see from the customer lens. So we call it as simply in our terms, outside in. So don't outside in. Don't think from inside out. If you think from inside out, you are still the company. You have to go out, look out from the outside in perspective, that if you were to use this product, your own product, how would you react to it? So we used to do some of these where for an unknown people we used to give some products, not in this company but in earlier company. We say, hey, this is the something, we don't know what this product is all about. When they go and check out, they tell me 10 different problems, where this 10 different problems doesn't even exist within the company. How come they are not tracking? So it requires a complete lens, customer lens, to be able to see this problem. And I always believed that whatever the tech stack, whatever the your internal problems or whatever the products you build, at the end of the day, if the customer doesn't take, then your lifeline doesn't, or the business itself doesn't. That's why I said customer experience more like competitive advantage, right? So and recently I was even joined as part of the advisory board member. This called as the CX lead. So where we try to bring some of the known analogies to be able to solve and provide our experiences to some of the organizations, telling them about what customer experience could mean, how do we build a strategy, uh, how does a SaaS product work upon. So that was quite interesting. So
And that's that's amazing, actually. Uh, Customer experience is always important, and the word which you said, outside in, is a very important approach, I guess.
yeah,
Uh, I have I have not worked in detail with customer experience, but well, obviously it does make sense, because if you like it, you will use it, and it'll be a same for everybody, right?
yeah. That being said, as I said, the software engineers, our engineering managers, right? They should also, meaning it's a company wide adoption, right? So you put customer centric related jargons and inside, but end of the day, you come in, you go out in a day, you complete certain set of tasks. But how does this impact to the end customer that really values? So each and everyone, including within the organization, they should understand their daily activities. It does impact for you, but it is having larger impact when it goes outside the company, outside the market, right? That's where the experience, without customers we are nowhere.
Yeah, I think that was great. Maybe there's more to learn in this, actually, because this is a whole chapter in itself.
Yes.
And but I don't want to dwell into it right now, because this is this can go anywhere. If you can grasp back to end it up as a CTO, what would your advice be as a final words? What would it be to a software engineer?
Okay. So first, I will put what I have gone through. Probably that should put a baseline for the software engineers, right? So I have, as I said, I started earlier as a technical engineer, understanding some problems, providing support to end customers. That's where now I have to step in into the shoes of engineering. I did Java codes. I did even build small apps on the Java. Then I moved on to managing. So one is getting yourself in your first phase of your life. I would say in the first 5 years, I have set my foot very stronger on my technologies. In terms of, when I say technologies, I had my programming skills. Yeah, even today, I do certain personal programming things, but most of my time goes in doing leadership, setting vision, setting things. But I still do hands-on stuffs. So setting your baseline. Next is to understand whether which particular market, this particular your area of expertise, does it solve for. And the next third phase would be to understand business sense. This is very important. Now you might have spent about, let's say, 5 to 8 years on tech stack. It could be your cloud, it could be your DevOps, it could be your programming, it could be your products, whatever it is. Your baseline is set. Now you need to understand the business, right? Your growth is there. I mean, you cannot continuously be coding. There are people who still code, but they are still coding. You might become a, let's say, a engineer, senior engineer, engineering manager, then you become software director of engineer. The growth path is also there, but when you go to that engineering manager, when you go to that director of engineering, right, software engineering, or it could be a platform engineering, the path is there. You get little time to code, but you get lots of time to understand the business problems, right? So because your landscape is now grown, so that is how you need to think about when you, as an early career, ensure very strong coding principles, make sure that is intact, and don't forget to lose sight of it. Keep doing something, but when you keep growing to a certain extent, make sure you understand larger problems. So you have to come into your leadership. You have to understand whether my current stacks are performing well. Do you really need to change it? So those kinds of decisions comes into picture. That's where your business acumen also comes in, right? This is where my entire 2 decades of journey has gone through, right? While I'm saying this, the shift is happening today. So when I say the shift, people are getting very little coding times, because you have lots of this chat gpts, geminis. You can still use it. Even I also use it, but don't rely on it. So there is something called as denvin, which is actually replacing an AI engineers. It can do code, it can do audit, it can do your everything. You don't need an engineer. but at the end of the day, it's still the human element. You cannot replace it, right? So make sure you get to your broaden your skill sets. Keep your baseline. On top of it, broaden your skill sets. Maybe today, for example, you are a software engineer. If you were to go to an engineering manager, you need to have, let's say, additional tech stacks. Like it could be your certifications. It could be working on your different AI, right? Get to know all of this. At least hear it out so that you keep monitoring on it. Then when you're going a lot to a larger extent, you come to the managerial position, it is for you to be able to handle team. So this is also very, very important, because managing team is not that easy. That too, if you're not from that particular let's say principle of tech, you cannot understand or read the mind of software engineers, right? Today, if I were to talk to a software engineer, for me it's a bit easy, because I can read. If he explains me certain context, I can say, okay, this is fine, but this is something you need to tweak it. So that principle still stays away because we have been used to that earlier. And as I said, broaden skills in terms of networking, make your communication better, make sure you collaborate, make sure you keep learning. Unlearn, learn. Unlearn, learn. So this is my suggestion.
Thank you so much. I think the final note really made an impact. Unlearn and learn is always the key thing, I guess. Obviously, all those points which you also mentioned is very important. Thank you so much for joining in and helping this conversation to go in a very nice direction. I believe anyone who is aspiring for CTO finds this as a very important discussion and takes this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamlesh. It was really a pleasure meeting you. I'm sure I would also like to mention some things about, so because you mentioned about the code brew as a community, what you are trying to do. So that is also very vital, right? So the interest of me coming and talking to you is also that you are trying to assist the software engineers, right? So that means that you are also been in the industry, and you know what are the problems which you might have gone through and which you are trying to solve for the others, which is quite appreciable. So I wish all good things happen to you, and wherever you feel that we can provide best support, we are always there to assist. I'm also that wherever the software engineering is still, it's going to continue, but it is that it's going in a very rapid pace. So people have to be fast enough to be able to acquire those knowledges. Thank you so much.